Hello everyone, welcome back to my team selection for game week 17. It's been a while since I posted a video because I was busy watching the World Cup. Now that the World Cup is over, it's time to turn our focus back to FPL. So for this video, I'm not just going to talk about my team selection like I always do. I'm also trying to do a little bit of a kind of a different format. Basically from now on, I want to use more facts, figures, images, and I want to make my videos more engaging to the audience, because if you watch my past video, it was all about a little bit of animation and me talking. So from now on, I just want to focus on some hot topics on the football community and also news regarding clubs or players, maybe show some football stats or start comparing the fixture. Basically, I want to make my videos more useful to more people playing FPL. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about what we need to know for this game week 17. So this game week 17 is basically like a FPL restart. We have unlimited transfer in this game week. So if let's say for the past 16 game weeks, you have been making terrible decisions and bad decisions, then now is the time to fix them, because you get unlimited transfer for this game week. So the big news about FPL is some teams they have their double game weeks. Their game week 19, 20 and 23. Game week 20 is a bit special. This double will only happen if both Man City and Spurs win or lose their FA Cup match. If they draw, they have to replay the match and game week 20 will be cancelled. So but if let's say Man City does beat Chelsea in the FA Cup, then there will be two double game weeks for Man City, which is game week 20 and game week 23. So this means that for this unlimited transfer, you may want to double or triple up, let's say on Man City players. Now I know that at first glance that this fixture in the double game weeks doesn't look too good, right? But for example, you also have to consider the firepower that Man City have. They're capable of scoring against any teams in the Premier League. What this means is that even if Man City face both Man U and Spurs in the double game week, it's a difficult game, two difficult games, but I mean, maybe there's a high chance that Haaland is still going to score in both games. Now, my point is, you shouldn't disregard a team's double game week just because they are facing difficult opponents, because double game weeks are great moments for us FPL players to improve our ranks tremendously. So depending on the kind of players that you go for, I mean, they may just perform, even if it's a double against difficult opponent. So I want to talk about some suggestions on which players you may want to transfer in to prepare yourself for this double game weeks. So for Fulham, I think the two obvious choices that you may be looking at is going to be Mitrovic and Andreas. Obviously, Mitrovic has played in the World Cup, which means he has recovered from his injuries. We saw how consistent and fixture-proof he has been at the start of the season. And for Andreas, he has been in good form this season and he is well rested. Because he's not involved in the World Cup games, so he should be fit and ready to go. And for Chelsea, they're kind of a weird team, right? When Graham Potter first joined the club, Chelsea has been in good form, keeping many clean sheets and winning games. Towards the end of the season, somehow they drop off a little bit. Before the World Cup, things start to get a little bit rough for them. They start losing games after games. So I think that this World Cup is actually a good restart for Chelsea because they get to rest their mind and start over again. Now, I want to say that there are rumors that James is going to come back for game week 17, but I think it is a risk to transfer him in because this guy has been out for so long. Is he going to be fit enough to last 90 minutes in the game? And if he does come back, does he play as a wing back, which is a demanding position in football that requires him to run up and down the pitch? Or does he slot straight into the centre back role where it's slightly more relaxed and chill and he can play more minutes? I mean, obviously we want James to play in the wing-back role, but is he going to be fit enough to get some attacking returns? Is he going to play 90 minutes? Probably not. Maybe a 60 minutes would be good for James, but I'm not so sure about his fitness because we haven't seen him play yet. Another risky pick is Kai Havertz. Kai did really well in the World Cup. He's perhaps the best player in that Germany squad who went out in the World Cup during the group stage. Some FPL players are suggesting that he may bring his good form in the World Cup over to the Premier League. But I does have my doubts on this pick because Kai Havertz is not known to be that consistent player that you can depend on week after week, because on good days he does score a lot of goals, maybe even in consecutive matches. On bad days he just disappear and never perform. So for Man City player, most of you are going to have Haaland. You may want to consider De Bruyne despite his poor form in the World Cup. Before the World Cup, he has paired up very well with Haaland to get attacking returns. It's usually a case of who do you want more? Do you want Salah or do you want De Bruyne? Because I think most of you want only one of these two players in your team. Then you have Cancelo, which is a expensive defender, and for his price tag, Man City hasn't been keeping too many clean sheets, so that's something for you to consider when you pay expensive defenders. And maybe you can replace Cancelo with a player like Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker has been a very fantastic player in the World Cup. He's I would say a cheaper option, around 4.8 million compared to someone like Cancelo who is 7.4 million. The difference is astonishing. And then you also have Foden, which is a rotation risk. I like Foden a lot, but he gets rotated so much by Pep. I'm not even sure that you should be considering him in your team. For Spurs, it's simple. You can consider getting two players, Son or Kulusevski. For Son, I would say before the introduction of Perisic, Son is scoring a lot of goals last season, right? Without Perisic, he scored a lot from the left side position. However, this season we see that because Perisic is dominating on the left side of the pitch, which is going to push Son more towards the middle, which for him is not so effective. Now that Perisic is probably going to be rested 1 or 2 weeks because he played for Croatia and Croatia advanced all the way until the third place playoff match. So it is almost certain that Perisic will not be starting for game week 17 and possibly even game week 18 too. So this is an additional advantage for Son to play more towards the left side of the pitch. If you don't want to consider Son, it's fine. I mean, you can consider Kulusevski because we know that Richarlison is injured, and according to the rumors, he could be potentially out for almost, I would say, about 5 to 6 weeks. So in these 5 or 6 weeks, there's going to be like 5-6 games for Spurs, and Kulusevski would definitely be starting. And we also know the quality of this player. We have seen it. He has done it all. He's the kind of player that can make a difference in this game. We saw time and time again his creativity on the ball and his ability to make that key passes. He also provides goal-scoring threats for Spurs too. Spurs actually kind of suffered in the attacking department when Kulusevski are injured. So I would say this Kulusevski, I feel really good that this could be a good pick. For Arsenal, I suppose most of you already have Xhaka and Martinelli. Arsenal fixture is not that great. They play West Ham, Brighton, Newcastle, Spurs and Man U in the next 5 game weeks. So I think you can consider selecting just one of either Xhaka or Martinelli instead of both players. Maybe, just maybe, you can transfer out Xhaka and keep Martinelli to use that transfer budget you save on Xhaka on other premium players. And for Arsenal defenders, I feel that you can consider Ben White because he's quite cheap at 4.7 million and he's a starting defender and he's also well rested too because he left the England squad very early due to personal reasons. At 4.7 million, there's not much to lose here, right? I mean, there's almost nothing to lose because at 4.7 million is so cheap. And if you're looking at someone differential, maybe why not look at Nketiah? Because Nketiah, who is going to be starting in the starting lineup because Jesus is currently injured for potentially 3 months. So this could be the time for Nketiah to shine. But there's one thing to consider is that he's on 6.5 million, which is not a cheap option. He's somewhere in the middle of the range. So if you want to go for him, I mean, it really depends on personal preference because we really haven't seen much of Nketiah yet. But maybe this is the time for Nketiah to shine. So these are the players who are involved in the semi-finals and finals of the World Cup. I think it's reasonable to say that they're all going to be rested for at least 1 to 2 weeks. After that, they will need to be assessed first and they will need to be trained before they can start a game in the Premier League. So my advice is to simply just completely ignore or avoid all these players listed here. And there are some players like Saliba, which is a bit special because Saliba did not play much for France. His team went into the finals of the World Cup, but he did not start or he did not play much in the World Cup after all. So you can consider bringing him in or transferring him in if you think he's fresh after all. But personally, I wouldn't do that because there's no guarantee that the club will play him. They may just let him go on holiday or rest anyway. So only proceed to transfer in these kind of players if you heard news or you have certain information that you're very sure that they're going to start the next few games. Another way you can use this information is to determine the kind of impact that these missing players have on their respective team. Let's say, for example, Man U are missing 2 key players in the central defense. They are Martinez and Varane because they both played in the finals of the World Cup. So is it going to affect how Man U play? Probably yes. Are they going to focus and play a more attacking manner so that they can keep the ball as far away as possible from their goalkeeper? This is something to consider because if they do that, it means that the striker or the forwards in Manchester United is going to benefit more compared to the defense because the defense obviously without Varane, without Martinez, they may suffer to even keep a clean sheet or may concede a few goals. And this situation is even more worse for Spurs because they are going to miss 3 key players in their defense department. They are Lloris, Romero and Perisic. They are all first team players and this may affect how Spurs play too. They are not just facing issues in defense but in attack too because Richarlison is also injured, so they could be forced to adapt and depends on players like Son and Kulusevski to get their attacking returns. So maybe, just maybe, this could be the time for players like Son or Kulusevski to shine because the club heavily depends on them to get something in the game. So let's talk about my team selection for game week 17 and let's start off with a blank page. First, for my goalkeeper, I have gone for Kepa. The reason I go for Kepa is mainly because of Chelsea great fixture. They play Bournemouth and play Forest in the next 2 games. Kepa is also their first choice goalkeeper at Chelsea now and has been performing really well before the World Cup. The only concern is Kepa's injury, but there are reports of him training with the squad. So I think the situation looks pretty good and it looks positive now, so I think it's worth taking a risk on Kepa. For my defense, I'm going extremely light here. After looking at all the games before the World Cup, I have to be honest, I'm not confident in a lot of defenders. Lots of players that perform are usually in the forwards or the midfield position. The only player that's performing well consistently in defense is only Trippier, in my opinion. So there are no surprise here as Trippier will remain and continue to remain in my team. Newcastle fixture aren't that great. They play Leicester next and Arsenal in the game week 19. But it doesn't matter because this is Trippier and he has been quite, I would say, fixture proof so far in this season and he has been consistent so far. So Trippier did not play much in the World Cup either, so I think he will be definitely fit to start in this game. My next pick is Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker has obviously recovered from his injuries. We see him displaying his top speed when he defends against Mbappe in the World Cup, so I assume he will go straight back into the first team at Man City. To my opinion, he's also crucial to Man City defense as we saw Man City got fewer clean sheets the moment he got injured because his top speed as a defender that helps his team as a third center back kinds of provide a cover for the team's defense when they need it most during the opponent's transition phase. The other defense I would consider is Nathan Patterson. Patterson did so well early part of the season before he got injured. Now he's back again and he has a nice game against UV, which is a potential game for clean sheet points too, because UV are just terrible at attacking. I think there's nothing to lose for this pick because it's only cost you around 4 million. And moving up to my midfield is going to feature two heavyweights in the Premier League. They are De Bruyne and Mo Salah. If you all watch the Carabao Cup for Man City versus Liverpool, which Man City won 3-2, I would say De Bruyne is an absolute beast in that game. He assisted twice in that game. We also saw a different, we also saw the usual Haaland and De Bruyne combination again. This is a completely different De Bruyne that we saw in the World Cup. It's two different De Bruyne here. The FPL De Bruyne versus the World Cup De Bruyne is so different. The World Cup De Bruyne is just terrible, but the FPL De Bruyne, in the Premier League with Man City, he's superb. So FPL players, the real De Bruyne is back. It's not the World Cup De Bruyne, And Mo Salah has been really good in that game. He scored 1 goal too. And Salah did not play in the World Cup, so this means he's fresh, he's fit, he's potentially dangerous to other teams now. And it also means that most of you guys should probably take notice of him and brought him in and transfer him into the team. And because now I have two premium midfielder in the team, I can't afford both Xhaka and Martinelli. So Martinelli will stay while Xhaka will go. Of course, I prefer Xhaka, but because I think that Xhaka's form in the World Cup is great. But ultimately, my transfer budget is not enough, so I had to make some sacrifice here. Another reason why I sacrificed an Arsenal player is also because of that difficult fixture. But if Xhaka really performs really well, I may consider bringing him back for the double game week that Arsenal have. And lastly, in my midfield, we have Almiron. I've been punished again and again for not owning Almiron, and I don't want to regret again for not picking Almiron. So this time, I'm picking him in my team. Moving to my forward, I have gone heavily on 3 forwards because I do think that for this season, forwards are better than midfielders and defenders. First up, we have Anthony Martial, a differential. Now I know what the FPL community must be thinking. How can you choose Anthony Martial over someone like Mitrovic? Are you insane? Well, I'm not. Because I think that Manchester United fixture are really good. They play Forest, UV and Bournemouth for the next 3 games. These 3 teams have conceded a lot of goals in total and in the last few games before the World Cup. So Martial does have a chance to score some goals here, as he should be the preferred number 9 now, as Ronaldo is no longer at the team. Another theory I have is since Manchester United are most likely going to miss both Varane and Martinez for the next 2 game weeks, I think they're most likely not going to focus on any defending. I would say they're going to focus more on attacking tactics and try to outscore their opponent, because this is what you do when your defense are weak or are not so strong. You focus more on the attack. So I think there could be a lot of goals scored for Manchester United in these 3 games, and this is the reason why I'm willing to put a gamble on Martial. Moving on to my next pick, we have Darwin Núñez as my next forward. We know that both Luis Diaz and Diogo Jota are injured at the moment, so this is the time for Darwin Núñez to shine. We saw how Darwin Núñez played in the last 2 games before he went for the World Cup. He was superb at that moment, but he didn't do so well in the World Cup. But I think that he's good for Liverpool, and I'm excited to see what kind of performance Núñez is going to bring us in the next few games. And my last pick is just obvious, it's going to be Haaland, right? The guy is rested for the entire month, so he's fit and he's ready to go. We saw how deadly he can be in the Carabao Cup already, where he scored the first goal. I think he missed the Premier League and he will score a lot of goals again for Man City. My bench consists of Ward, Andreas, Blenu and White, if I pronounce Blenu correctly. Leicester City is going to play a Newcastle, which is a difficult fixture. So this is the reason why Watt is on my bench, and I prefer Kepa because Kepa is playing Bournemouth. And then also we have the Andreas, who is a great option, but compare him to other midfielders in my team, he's the only one that I can probably bench and sacrifice. Blenu is a great bench options for Wolves. He's only 3.9 million. And lastly, Ben White is facing West Ham, which is a derby game, so I don't expect him to get any clean sheets. For captain, I'm putting it on Haaland, and Anthony Martial will be my vice captain. I have to say, looking at my team right now, I feel really good about this team. So let's see how they perform in game week 17. I'm just so excited that FPL is back. I'm looking forward to all these games in FPL. So alright guys, if you do like my content, please like this video and subscribe to this channel for future FPL content. All the best to everyone for game week restart, or rather I would say game week 17. Merry Christmas to all, and I shall see you all again. Goodbye.